Okay, so now we're back. We're going to move over now to the knot here, the Great Eastern Knot, if you will, on this side. And so we've got a situation that's going, I think, well. We still need more background contrast, and we'll get to that once I get the rest of the parts. And I'm going to sharpen my pencil as I talk a little bit. So every time that you start a new session, kind of review what, if you can remember, review what you've done and what works and what's not working, and look and see. Make some analysis through that, and then start anew on your work, and give yourself kind of an opening period to see what you had, what you got. So I might just, for me, just strengthen up this coarse shadow, or this side shadow. It could be a little bit darker right in through here. But things seem to be working, I think, pretty well there. All right, so now let's tackle this knot over here, this tie-up bundle that we are exploring and working with. So I'll come over here. I'm going to clean up my drawing a little. Keep it nice and cleaner with any smudging that you might have. And of course, the softer material that you have, the more difficult all that is and begins. So now we've got this area right here, and then the knot to work on this side over. So let's work through here. So now coming over and working through these kind of two little zigzags. These are interesting because they're raised little areas of cloth, and they're raised up pretty high, but very thin and thin little strand of material here. So I'm going to add this dark here, but I'm also going to come underneath and add the ending of them as they really turn into the curve, and that's kind of a hard edge. And so I'm going to start out with kind of a tighter line in through here. Okay, right there, and go darker, and then they move into the softer sort of shadow, cast shadow actually, but it ends a little softer and through there. Okay, right in there to define that, and then we get this movement here. So this curvature, if you will, right in through here, moving over and around. Right into there. And over. And then through and around to that lighter area where we can barely see the difference of the light there. So this was working pretty good in through here, maybe a little bit darker right in through there. You don't have to go into grand detail there. Okay, and coming on its back side over here, we'll hit this a little bit darker and softer right through here, up and through. And it gets a little creasing, a little tighter edge, a little darker right in through there. So it comes down and cascades downward. It's a little darker here, under there. There's a little reflected line next to it, so you have to be careful. Let that show through just a bit. And as I come down here, notice now we can tighten up right in through and define really the width of this strip that's being poked up quite a bit by coming over and getting low in there and then taking off on it. There we are. And it's going to tighten that band, a little banded area that we've got. Go. like so. Just to tighten this up, thin it out too as well. That's what we're really doing. So we're coming around and through. And this gets softened right into here. This is softer, this edge. We have to have that softer. It's a gradual sloping transition downward, just a little softer. Soften that edge up. And move it further downward. Okay, seems to be working pretty good. And then we'll tighten this edge up a little further. Thin this out a little further. Okay, through there. And then coming over. And through. And right here. I think we've got what we wanted through there, and then we're coming over down to here. This is core shadow, and then right next to it, this little dark, is a cast shadow, a harder edge being cast from the knot area, and coming over, then gathering right there into a real strong little dot or point where it gathers deeper. And it comes out, and I'll have some gathering in through there. This comes out, and then we'll get the background tone a little bit later. I want to move on and keep going there, since our background is mostly laid in nicely. And I'm going to alter that background. I'm not going to go as dark as what we see in our image, because I can't, because you can alter as an artist. It's your choice and right to change. Okay. Coming in through and over to here. And we'll go a little darker and through here. You constantly have to analyze and look and analyze and look, so your head's moving back and forth. You're trying to find your place. A lot going on. A lot to see. Here, so it's starting to work pretty well as we cover over. Right into there. Okay. So now let's work the second little curve over and through here and around, and then we'll get really right into that knot mostly, won't we? Okay. Right, so coming up and through, I want to keep going. Notice also how I'm holding my pencil mostly in the writing pose now that I'm deep into detail. It's just easier, and I'm also sitting down a little bit too. It helps get the right approach, which is important in getting the right approach to what you're doing. Okay, we're coming over here, and this is all about the same value, so we'll just kind of run it into there for now. And coming over, and this is going to be a softer transition. Over. And then I'll turn my pencil over a little bit because I've got a broader area I want to tackle, so it's easier to do that. Anytime I can hold my pencil in the palm method, I'll probably do it over the writing method until I need that real specific detail. There we go. There we go. Okay, we have that. Then we're going to come around and through here. I'm just going to pick up this curve in through here, and we see a little reflected light because there's a coarse shadow. So right in through, do you see it? Really, really, really tinily. Here's a coarse shadow. It's darker. It's kind of almost just, because we're so tiny here, just a soft edged kind of line that you need right in through there. There we go. A little bit darker in that corner. Not too heavy dark, but just a little bit here, and then it fades off because all this is in shadow now, right there, coarse shadow. And then we're going to pull out the second curve over here. Right in through here. Here we go. And so you're moving in through. And I'm moving over, and you can see it emerging, just kind of putting a value line-ish quality, but it's a very soft line. Don't make a hard edge line, otherwise you're going to probably be disappointed in what you've got wrought through your drawing, so be careful. It's very soft. I'm just feeling my way through the curve of it, here and then downward. And of course the rest of it I'll be just faded off there. Mine may be a little bit longer. These shapes don't have to be totally exact. Don't rack your brain, or don't be too hard on yourself if these shapes are not exact. You want to be close in the ballpark, and mine aren't, but they're really close enough. And I don't know anybody would, unless you're doing a graft kind of drawing of it. That seems really boring. You're interpreting quite a bit. So if anybody tells you, if you're really good, a solid in the park kind of drawing, then there's no reason to take abuse from somebody who says, oh, there's one little angle that's not 90 degrees, or etc. So be kind to yourself on that. I hope that makes you comfortable in that understanding. So this is a little darker in through here, over and around the top of it too. There. Okay, these kind of cascade, so I'm going to kind of cross contour the drawing a little bit, make that stroking pull up and over. There we go, and through here, and around. Coming through and getting that. Sometimes I go quiet a little bit just to concentrate and think a little bit, since we're deep into a drawing. In any way, it's really about watching and following and doing too as well. Even if you don't speak English and you don't understand what I'm saying, you can follow the visual, because it's a visual language anyway. I hope that helps a little bit. So anyway, we're coming down with the value here. So I'm going to generalize this shape on the outside here, coming around here and over and through and back through here. Okay. Right, so we've got this shape working for us. I'm going to go a little thicker here. Mine's a little thinner. Here. And coming back over. It's kind of like a folding sausage in a way. So this curves so. There we go. And coming down a little darker in it. Quite a bit actually, just over the whole thing. Okay. A little bit taut, a little bit tighter through here. And we're going to roll this around like so. Roll it around here a little bit and then meet the other side. And meet up with that shadow here. And all this is in shadow, as we see. There we go. Okay, curling up around. And then there's a separation of value, about right here, a little bit darker all over where it's folding in, but it's pretty soft transition to change. You have to be careful of that, but it's a little darker. About a step and a half or so darker, maybe a little bit more or less, roughly. Because you're constantly in a battle with changing edges and values, so you have to be super, super flexible with that. Here, then over to there, and coming around. And then over. Right, and so just be a little softer. I need to be just running through there. And softness can be adjusted by a change in value. So I want to pick this back up. This can go a little wider. And then through here. And then around. And I think we've almost got what we need out of this area. Here, coming over. And then we're going to come through. Pretty close in here now. Catch this shape a little bit over, just a touch running through there. A little darker on the cast shadow on this fold here. A little bit more of it too. And I think we're there. I'm just going to turn my stroking pattern to make it turn a little bit. Just to start to pull the eye in that direction. Soften this just a little bit more. Through here. Softness in this form shadow transitions. There we go. I think that's going to work for us there. All right, so now we've got the good turn with those folds there. This is, I want to go a little darker through here as we come through and around, right in through this area. There we go. And up and through. And around in here a little bit. Go. And cut. Of course I forget. Okay, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and go. So this could be a little bit more, I think a little bit better done running through here. So I'm gonna come up here, just kind of challenge myself to make this a little bit better. So we come over. So it turns here a little bit further, and then this is a little bit thinner, softer, and darker into here. There we go. A little bit more through here, a little softer through there. Pretty good through there. A little bit of a pointing here. Just kind of gets a little strong fold there. Straight into a fold. And over through here, a little softer. And the darker it goes running through here, the deeper it gets a little bit, where it turns down a little bit further. But it's not very deep. It's ultimately pretty shallow. Through here. Define that through further. Coming through here, finishing out this area just a little bit through there, and then I want to work on this roll of fabric a little bit through here, soften this up just a little bit more. It's a little harder than the edge, and I want it running through here, running through, put on the slip. Then around this bottom, I'm going to go just a little bit darker than what it is, just to give it a finish. A turn, kind of turning underneath a little bit. That's important. And then this little crease, barely visible in there. Right through there. Okay. So what I'm going to do is take this background here and go a little darker so I can judge it and see it later on against this as well. So I'm going to take my kneaded eraser and clean up here, yes, but what's more important is I'm going to take my angle triangle, kind of just put it against this edge just when I can, and go for another pass of background tone. just to strengthen up or darken up the value, if you will, that I have, just in this area for now. Because they work together. You don't want to think of them as separate elements too much. They really work together. All of it works together. So I'm just going to stop there, but I want to go up and through here just a little bit more. And I just put that triangle edge down there to kind of help me guide not to get too much of this on the edge of that. And I can soften that edge a little bit, but ultimately it's still a hard edge in there where that value meets the other. And I do the same thing kind of here. It lets me continue my fluid stroking method, but it tells me where to stop when I run into that triangle. See? You can hear that? That knocking? That helps me out. And I can erase if I need to. But it helps you go faster and also to run into an edge, and it helps you control that area too as well, which is, you know, obviously what you want. You want always a lot of control. Okay, so I think we're ready to go on to the knot now, proper knotting. Okay, to the Eastern knot. All right, so if you're British, maybe Nottingham. Okay, it's bad. Forest? No, that's a joke. All right, so we're going to go on to the Eastern knot, and I lied because I wanted to work on this little section right here just for a moment. Sorry about that. Just a little bit darker. Okay, now we're going to go on. So I'm going to start under here a little bit with this cast shadow is here, and there's an area where it gets a little darker in the cast shadow. All this is this little edge, this little ring here, that's part of the cast shadow. Here, too, on the edge here, on the other side, and then outward as it makes its way up. These are all cast shadows, and they soften out of the edge just a little bit as it goes up and through here. It's pretty dark. Cast shadows are generally darker, but not absolute, so you have to be careful, meaning that they're not completely 100% devoid of light. Because cast shadows can have reflected light in them, and they can also have core shadows within the shadow if there's a double shadow. Okay, so coming down this cast shadow here, this angle, it's a little bit harder edge, and then we can go darker here. Okay. So we have that coming through the lip and the edge and over, and then we have now this little area of that crease. Now I'm a little stronger than what it shows up on camera on that image, and so I'm going to, I might leave it, I kind of like it, but I think we should get more accurate here. So I'll show you what I mean. Right in through here, this is a little strong, right here. So I can take that down a little bit, soften that out, and it softens up nicely. Anytime you want to soften something up, just take your kneaded eraser and dab at it. That will immediately begin to soften that up as well. We're coming through here. Okay, and over, and then through, and then this gets a little bit as a lip, just a touch of a lip as we keep that going. Right in through there. Okay, so we got that cast shadow working pretty nicely. Then we go underneath a little bit, and we can start to see that this can get a little softer, this curve. You know, we've got a little bit more. I left myself a little short with shadow here. I can go a little bit more here. Okay. All right. Through there. Tighten up this kind of shadow edge, a little bit too thick here. I can take a little bit of that off. That helps. Do there. Makes that look a little stronger, a little better, and then I'll run my shadow back over it. So yeah, I get it. These are super tedious. It's probably going to be an 8-hour long video. I thought it might be about 5 hours when I started out, and then I realized, uh-oh, this is going to go longer. Uh-oh, but that's okay. Okay, so now we've got the knot to work out. So it's a pretty generalized state. You see how it's kind of a whirlpool? It turns kind of like a cylinder. So let's keep up with that idea, but let's see if we can break it down a little bit further and hit some of the deeper darks. So what I'm looking for now, here's my thinking, is I'm looking to seek out the deepest darks, okay, and find them and use them as an anchoring point to help my drawing, to help me find the resolution to this area. It's a really fun area to draw, I think, the knot. I was looking forward to it. Okay, getting knotty with it, if you will. Okay, that's another bad joke. I get it. I gotta stop doing those jokes. Okay. Obviously, I'm not a comedian, and I'm very bald. It's clear. Okay, so you get to see the top of my head. Okay, my wife calls me her balding husband. She just shortens it out. We make fun of each other. So she's tough. She is very tough. I would expect no less from her. All right, so getting back to the drawing proper. So we've got the shadow now. Looking for the darkest darks, and you can tell they're right. If you look at it, it's right up in here. Okay. And this first one, it's kind of on the lip edge of it. Flattens out a little bit. And we'll do some subtractive drawing in there to tighten up that edge. Edges when we need it, running through here. So it's an approximation. Coming on over as it turns through here a little bit and around. And on over. And then we're going to come through, and then we're going to get this area over here. And around. And then we're going to turn this kind of milky kind of edge. It's kind of like some of these edges. This edge is in through here. It's real soft and supple. And it ends a little earlier than that dark. Right in through here. See it? So this is all about realizing the truer, more specific nature of the forms that we're rendering. And this gets darker here on the edge because it's a coarse shadow, right? And then it falls pretty quickly into a reflected line. It's got a little extra crease there, right in through there, which is another little tight fold in there, and then it opens up to more reflected light through there. So if you can analyze your drawings in that way, talk to yourself and say, this is what this is what that is. In terms of value in edges, you're going to be so much more aware of things in the future about what you're doing and about why you're rendering the way you are. And I look over here and I think, okay, this could be a little darker, a little transitional, a little softer, just a touch right into there. Okay. Okay, there we go. Now we're coming back over. And so now I'm going to get into this little darker area over here. There's a little reflected light band. So I'll use it. Just kind of generally working my way through the image. Go. Around. And coming down, and that disappears a little bit with that reflected line, and it gets darker and through. Coming down around, so I'm just going to start to add more dark here. Okay, and then ultimately what I've got to do here in just a few minutes is take care of the bottom edge where it separates. It's going to be important really quickly here. Still pretty general. It's still like a flying disc, doesn't it? Just takes a while to get through. No doubt. Sometimes I'll stop an area and I'll come back over and see a little thing I want to adjust. Little idiosyncratic things. Alright, let's get the bottom of this edge. This is going to be important. So this goes a little bit darker, this little dark gap into here just a little bit. I'm going to curve this around a little further. There we go. And then we'll take this on over. Okay, and through. And we want to take this edge, okay, and tighten up the edge with kind of a cutting in line first off, okay. So it's a line. We can't leave it like that because it comes over to the undertow of that form, and then it comes out to ultimately to the edge of the knot into the background, and I can start to just begin to draw around the folds that's going to be later on. Running through there. Okay. So I've got that cutting in line, but we don't want to leave that because it's actually darker right underneath that. It's what makes that the separation. So that's like the top, and it's casting a little shadow underneath it. And then we can go under there. Get underneath that shadow and kind of play around with these little shapes that it makes. I don't like to say play around. We can design around it. Playing around trivializes it. I've heard other artists say that, and I don't like that. From lectures I've seen in the past when I was in grad school, etc. Coming down. Over. Okay. Coming around here, and back up and through and over. And then around. And then over again. Getting pretty taut in there, working that pretty well. And just softening that up a little bit. There we go, so we've got that underneath. So we get that underneath flow in there, so it's in shadow, it's working. And I'm going to come back and get a little bit of this edge, just to pick up. It comes in a little bit lighter. It's important to get that right in through there. There we go. Alright, so got that going on. All right, coming in now through the knot. Again here, got that undergirding here that we've just taken care of. I just sharpened my pencil, so I took a break off camera there. You wouldn't know that because I cut it out. All right, mercifully. Sometimes I forget. I'll cut things out. I was like, uh-oh. If I didn't say anything or do something stupid off camera, which my wife will tell you I'm known to do, so luckily I think I've avoided that in most of my videos. But sometimes I haven't. Oh well. So is coming back up, getting those dark anchors we talked about further in through here, getting some of the shape in through here. Here's going to be a separation between this lip edge of the fold, and then right on top there's another lip where it is and through here, and then we can come around this ball here and then come on over, and you can see this edge in through here and downward and out here and through here. So we're just getting that marked in for now, and we'll go back and detail out another run, pass out of it. I'll take another pass at it. There we go. Okay. And a little bit thicker up and through here, just a little bit, which will be later. And through. Okay, we have that coming around. Now I can come around where this lip is, really get a little bit of shadow. Take it over, right in through here, and then there's a little point where this cloth dips down into, okay, the back edge and disappears, and it gets taut, and that's where it's coming out of. Right in through there, isn't it? Right? In through there, and then up. Kind of already have a little bit, and over, okay, and through, and then this gets to be a darker little shadow tone that fades into that wall with you have a cast shadow there. See how that wall's not absolutely dark, but the cast shadow gets real close to it, but not quite still even. In here and up and over. A little bit thicker, probably going to go a little bit longer too, a little bit maybe, right into there. Always adjust your initial drawing if you need, because it's going to change, especially here. Okay, right in through there. Okay. So what I did, I just took this cloth, this bed sheet, old bed sheet we've had in the studio for forever that our models sit on and stand on and whatnot and pose on. And then I just took it, and it's, cleaned it obviously, and took it and started to tack it up against the wall of my office studio. My office is probably 20 feet by 30 feet or so, so maybe about, I don't know what that is, 600 square feet? No, not even that much, 20 by 30, somewhere around there. I'll have to do the math, calculator, because I'm math stupid. Most Americans are. Not all of them, but most of us are stupid. As you can tell during the pandemic. Anyway, and so then I tack it up against the wall. You can't see the tacks because the folds are around them and hiding them. And then what I did was I started to pull and turn. I took different photographs and just used the ones I thought were the best. So it's not really a complicated process, but it is a nice, fun, creative kind of process to get those to work in different shapes that you want. You could manipulate and change this. This is a good classroom exercise that we do with paper bags at times. We've used cloth like this and other things. T-shirts, everybody bring in a t-shirt. We can draw the t-shirt and what's on the t-shirt in addition to the line. All those things are kind of fun too as well. So those are all kinds of things that you can wind up doing here. And then we're moving over with the dark here a little bit, and it kind of comes into a line fold. It's not a lot left in through here. So that's kind of a general lay-in for that part. in there. And then we'll come back over and around. And through. And then this disc, it's kind of a disc, right, is here. And I'm just trying to block in these shadow shapes. I'm still thinking of it, for the most part, as a very flat, light-dark relationship. And so it doesn't have a lot of depth in my mind, what I'm looking for. I'm trying to think, not think three-dimensionally, but still more two-dimensionally, and separate the elements into a light and dark range to bring them out, to distinguish them, and then certainly once I'm ready to turn them into more three-dimensional kind of forms. But before I do that, because since it's so complex, I'll want to separate them out first into light and dark transitions for sure. Through here, okay. Through there, and then up and around, and then coming over, and then we get a little bit of just this dark lip that's coming in that helps separate. And of course, there's going to be some dark, a little bit more through here, and then a little bit more through here. So this process really is about getting a little bit more specific, not a ton, but more specific than the real general lay-in that we had. And that's important to keep all this information relevant. And this will be a lip through there, curling through. And around, coming through and around. So again, just picking apart. I don't have a lot to say differently right now. We'll just keep going. Here we go. That's it, coming down. So all this is darker, not specific yet. See how that reflected light right in there, that little band, it will fade. Its thickness, see that? It's kind of a banding, and it fades downward and outward. So we'll keep working on that. Fade that outward. Okay, and we'll come around. Let's come around this backside. That's what we're needing now. So I'm going to catch this lip here. You think it goes up, but there's another one a little underneath it that's a little tighter. Right here. So just using a line to cut in solid there. What I mean by cut in is just to define further, and this could probably go right in through here. Gets really thick, and right about here it dips in, doesn't it? Right in through there. Something like that. And then over, a little bit higher maybe. And then it kind of curls in there. We've got what we need out of that. Okay. then we're going to come down and start to find these darks into here, under this edge, right into here. There we go. And we'll lip around and over to about here. And so where does that curve in? I kind of bring a horizontal line, alignment line in my mind, kind of right above this little, see this little tip in the middle-ish area is a little bit higher than that all the way over, so about right in here. That's how I judge that. And then the thickness between here and here is looking pretty good. Basically just a fold that's turning, because it's kind of like a rose petal too. I'm calling it a knot, but it has a rose kind of petal quality to it. And do. Okay, and then around, and then it cups underneath here. There we go. Like so. And then we're going to color in here and over and through here. Just block in, block in, block in. Don't get too detailed. Block in this little shape here. Curling around. I have to remind myself of that. Sometimes I'll get too detailed to a stage that maybe I can do, but may not be appropriate for the level that you're at. Keep this at a basic level. There we go. And I'll clean that little light part of the fold a little later, so I'm just going to block all that in. So don't worry about, I see that, I see where it's light on the fold. Don't worry about that, I got it, I got you, I got you. Do there, up and over, and around. Around here, and then right through here, this little turn fold right through here. There we go, as we come through. Right into here, and up, and over. So I'm just getting all the basic darks, and we'll get those separations mostly next. Here's a strong one I need to get though, where this really cutting dark edge line, you can see cast shadow in there, where there's a separation of the form of cloth. Right up and through and over, and it ends to here with the fold. There it is. And outward to that lighter area. So we can see it emerging, can't we? We can see this all starting to merge out and to come out to the light and come out. It's like a lumpy piece of clay, and it's finally starting to emerge from the darkness, if you will. Okay, so right behind here, this little triangular weird little folding action underneath here is some dark that we can start to manipulate and use to our understanding here and around, and all this is kind of in shadow there, and then cutting into this stronger edge that gets us around here and back over to the fold into there. And then we have this cast shadow being cast on the light coming down this way and then onto it, and then casting this structure around here. Okay, there it is. Curving up and over, and it's going to get into that later turn underneath kind of that band, kind of like that. I'll kind of just show you that. It'll meet up with that there, and we can get all this in and through here. Like that. And then just block all this in now with our tone or value tone. Here we go. And that really represents the next, finishing that next stage we just did now, the more general, from very general to a more specific stage. And now we've are ready really to now go in there really, really deeply, right? And really start to tighten things up and make this really look like that knot that we see. That's the next step. All right, so let's get in now to the specifics of this knot, the Great Eastern Knot, and work it to its completion. And then once we do that, we'll work some of this background tone over here to more fully integrate it into what we're doing here. So now coming over here, softening the coarse shadow of this little crater kind of an edge through here. Okay. And then coming over. Yeah. And through. Around. And we've got this little back lip in through here. And then we've got this in through here. Now it's ready to do some separating of this little fold right in through here. So I'm going to use my hard edge as a guide and through here to get a little bit of an edge, cut into an edge and through here. Okay, so I can come up a little bit with that, because down here is underneath here, a little darker, right in through here. So we want to separate them out, so that can go a little bit thicker. And then I can tell that the wider area of that little reflected light lip can be a little bit more brought out, so I'll just soften it up and through there, and you can see that come out a little bit more. Or you could take your mono eraser, like little surgical tools. So if you're a doctor and you're watching these and draw, I have a few medical professionals that draw for relaxation or whatever they need to. They've talked to me about anatomy a little bit, and we talk about tools like surgical tools coming in through here, all over. So we've got that lip now back, but I want to lighten up in through here a little bit further. And just dab it out. That's a little bit better, I think, for where I was at. Coming over, come up on this edge, through here, get up and over to here. Now, so we're coming through, we have this overlap here, and this gets me underneath a little bit, right into here. Not exactly completely accurate, right into here. This is a little off right there, but I'm okay with it. It's not tantamountly important. What would be worse if this knot, if you wanted to be really accurate, was way up here, but this little area, kind of on that fold, is not quite accurate. But I can see it, but I don't care about it. Okay with it. And you can too. In certain areas, I think you can be very forgiving of yourself. Other areas you may not be able to be with respect to what we're doing, or what you're doing, actually, because I'm not doing it for you. Okay. And only you can really make that call. So, all right, coming up here, feeling around the edge of this crater, and over. Go. And out through. And over, and I'm going to catch this little pyramid of value, darker edged value in through here. Up and through here and underneath the little hood in there. I'm getting that working for us. Simplify that up some. Just with a stronger line and then a curling under here and then back over a little bit. There we go. Through here. Okay, and through and then underneath. This little bottom lip in through here for now. And then we're going to get this little thickness in through here that's going to help. Right in through here. And it kind of, the edge of this fold, see it here, start here, and then as it moves over, see how it softens. It's just pretty fascinating. A little bit darker in through and over, and not quite wide enough, but it's not such an important area that it really matters. So I'm not going to change it, but I'm a little bit thin compared to the image, but that's okay. I think we just talked about that. Coming through. Okay, I want to stick back this. It's easy to get kind of seduced by going through, but I want to stick back over and through here to make sure I'm giving you a better option here. Coming through these tight through here. So there's a little cast shadow lip, and then coming back over and through. And this wants to hang out over, just slightly overhang. Makes that a little darker underneath there. And there's a little bit of a, see how it's catching a little light? It's kind of a dot. Right in through. I'll take just a little bit out. If I had my electric eraser with me, that would be easier, but I left it in my office, so I'm in one of my home studios because of the virus, COVID-19, so we are teaching at NKU mostly online, only a few classes like sculpture and ceramics have to brave world of that being together right now, which I wish we could, but it's very, very dicey. We're just not doing enough to protect ourselves, unfortunately. And that's disappointing. But that's another conversation for a later date. Right, so we're coming under. I can go a little darker in through here. And in. Just keep it soft in there as we're kind of defining that line, and we'll throw a little bit of more defining value in these areas just to give it a little variation. It's a little flat, so we can pick up some of the minor pleating and folding there. Reflected light. There we go. So when I work with the tip of my pencil right now, it's not very sharp, and that's a good thing for now because I don't want it to be so incisive as a line. I just want to define a little bit more in the tone, but not make a cutting edge of it. There we go. Running through that lip, through there. There we go, running through. So a little bit more wavering, and when wavering I mean a little bit more value shifting. And through here, coming down, you can see a little fold. And through here, so you notice we're just picking it apart. We're just saying, okay, what area is a little bit darker, what area is a little bit lighter. What areas need some value shift? Is an edge soft or it's a harder edge, etc. Coming through, defining this a little further. A little bit more into here, a little curve I can see. Just trying to tease out some of these edges and folds, getting a little closer to what I see. It doesn't have to be so exact. And through here, a little openness. And it's starting to come out. We're starting to come out of the shadow, right, a little bit. Turning it over a little bit, like so. Okay, turning it through here, and we're getting closer now. Coming through, we got this little turn, little shapes, and we're kind of got that nailed over here, from what I can tell a little bit. Okay. Here. You can see where I have this cut-in fold here, and see how it should be a little further over to here, right? It's no big deal. It's no big deal. It's not going to make or break the drawing, so don't sweat if you did something a little closer to that or different to that. It's no big deal if you miss a little bit. I don't think I've ever made any drawing 100% that I know of. I don't care to. Okay, don't worry about it. Unless there's some kind of ulterior motive going on, you can miss some things. You don't want to miss scale and proportion too much, but this is one where you don't have to worry about it. So coming down here in these folds, here, this curve, and over. And coming in through. And while we're drawing here, I'm going to see if I brought my electric eraser. Maybe I did bring it home in my toolkit over here for a moment. because they are helpful. So we've got these folds in through here and over. So I've probably been a little bit lazier in this area than I ever have with the rest of the drawing. It's not that it's important. And I'm getting, I think, a nice job of getting the feeling of this turning and folding around this cloth. I guess that's kind of self-congratulatory, I suppose. And around and over. We'll cut through and around. And we're going to cut into now this little kind of banana shape. Over and through this, kind of rounding through here. And it curves all the way down into kind of here, doesn't it? There we go. So I'm not that accurate, but I'm relevant, meaning that it looks fine. But I'm not completely 100%. Where I'm much more accurate with some of these, I'm not in here, but I'm okay with it. Give yourself permission to, if you're drawing well, it's really not going to matter. I think it's just, I've had some comments by a few YouTube watchers, some graffiti artists from Pakistan, which is really kind of a cool conundrum. And he has a YouTube channel. He came on and had some critical things to say that I was off on a lot of drawings, and probably minorly. Yeah, if you got out the calipers, probably by a quarter of an inch. I really don't care because the drawings work. In formal linear perspective, you don't want to be off, and so that's not what he was commenting on. I think he was commenting on more of the figure, which is fun. He had some interesting graffiti work. I forget his name. Definitely, I think the last name was Han, but that's a tribal name. I have a good friend who's Pakistani I used to live with in grad school. Great guy. His name is Nabil. So some of my roommates when I was in grad school were from Pakistan as well as Kuwait, and so I learned a lot about Arab culture at the same time that 9/11 happened. So it was really eye-opening and fascinating to get their take on culture and political events in Israel and those things. I think it was fascinating. Of course, I have Jewish friends too as well. And I've been to Israel and Egypt and Jordan, so I've been in the Arab world and Middle East, Israeli world. It's a fascinating, beautiful place. And also Palestine. I've been there too as well. So. Alright. Just softening up that little crater in there. It's pretty important. It's kind of an awkward little place the way it's coming through. I'm going to cup this a little bit more, putting a little bit more dark on this side here. It's just kind of working all around. Go. Tying that in a little bit, so we're getting this knot cleaner, and also clearer. a little bit cleaner. I'm going to soften this whole area by glazing over it a little bit. Just putting a little value to soften it, to blur it out just a little bit. It's pretty soft. A little bit softer here. Just to give a contrast to some of the harder edge things that are going on there. It reads even nicer too as well. So I blurred that out just a little to make that a little softer to it, so it relates a little better to some of the clear, harder edged areas that we have. This could probably come over. There we go. So coming through this region and over. Okay. And then around. Banana. Of course, shadow there with reflected light. Okay, and then around on here is a little bit of a top. Okay, and I'm going to soften this down a little bit further. Right, to add a little bit more dark than I can see. Because I can do that if I want. And this lip I want to make a little stronger. This little edge here, there. Separate that further. I don't want to use too heavy a line. I have to be careful. Because that's going to be important later on, and this will be background tone later. Put a little bit there, just to kind of mark it. Later on, this is a little, got much more light. It's a little bit thicker, isn't it? I'm going to use my other. Here's where I want to take out a little bit more when I can. Is come up a little here. Take out some more of that. That looks better. There we go. Blow that off or wipe it off, however you want. Okay. So we run around here a little bit. Over. So coming through and around and over. Through, cutting in that edge a little bit and around. What's happening is you can see it now, it's turning. See my pencil goes, it's turning this way. Up and through and over. Like so. So, you know, if you're following really close to me, great job. That's exactly what I want you to do. And it's more of a YouTube land kind of drawing. Don't worry about being exact to mine, because I'm not exact. To the image, and that's okay. Get close, but you can see how I think through things as I'm talking through them, right? And you can get some ideas of how you can resolve your areas closer to mine or more closer to the image when I'm off a little bit. And that's okay. But there's no way you're going to be exact to mine. It's not the point. The point is to have these videos as exercise demonstrations so you can watch all of it or part of it, whatever you need. You know, I get the exercise, the mental physical drawing exercise. That's good for me as a professional, just to be able to, do these. But for you guys, you can use them deeper as intensive studies. That's really what they're for. So now coming through a little bit more in through here. I don't like the halo, but that little dot, make that just a little bit darker. I think that's enough. And then I want to come around here a little bit now. As we come around this lip, as we curved back over, the curves back and through, and it's a little darker on this side, and it's stronger dark where this fold curls down into and underneath that area, isn't it? So I could go a little darker with that. That means this area right in through here, as it cups over, is a little darker, isn't it? Right in through that region. Because this has a little bit of a being a presence in through here, cupped over and through there. As we wrap that over, I looked for my electric eraser. I think I left it in my office studio. I don't have it in my home studio. I just built this home studio for myself. I usually have about 3 studios. I have one in my university setting, then I have one at home that I've been modifying. That's about 500 or 600 square feet, which is kind of big, but not, that was a huge name in the art world, and you could have a warehouse type, pretty big. And then I have, when I need a bigger space, then I'll rent a space out in closer to an urban warehouse area in Cincinnati that has artist spaces that are pretty reasonable for artist spaces compared to like New York and Los Angeles. Like in Chicago, they could be crazy. Got to have some grant money or something going on in your career where you've got enough funds to afford that. Can be very, very difficult. So it's not easy. It's a very rare artist who's that big that has that's less than 1% of the world's artists are what we call the big blue chip artists. And there's all the artists that are college professors that get paid to teach and also do work, which is where I'm at, my career. And there's illustrators, design type artists, all kinds of. So as I'm going off on a tangent, I'm working in these detailed areas, pick them apart, just approximating what I see. They don't have to be too exact, but they're close, really close, through here. So we're lipping, curving around this area. I'm going to come over here, through. This kind of comes around, gets a stronger dark band as it's a fold in there. As we see it. Okay. Through here. And over. A bit lighter and through. So light comes over and through here. We get a little bit of reflected light, a little turning on the fold. Pretty complex, can it? It almost makes you want to cry. If you need to cry, go for it. Have yourself a good cry. I don't mind. It's okie dokie for me. To here and over. And downward. On this edge out here, I'll just put a tighter edge for now. We'll bring up background tone a little later. I'm going to bring a little bit if I want already into here. Just to help us out. And again, if your pencil gets dull, you can also, you're kind of self-sharpening it by using the side of the paper. Okay. I'm going to take now my eraser here and get some of these folds if I can. Along this little lip edge here, see it underneath here? Bring that out just a touch of light. Bring it out into the light. Let there be lights. Let there be sound and drums and guitar. Let there be rock. Alright. So if anybody knows the name of that song I just sang a lyric to, email me. See if you could get that. One of my favorite rock bands. Right there, and then we're going to come up a little bit. You can see that lips off, and then it comes way up and gets real thin. Okay, grab some more eraser. Through here, right over. And we'll grab a little bit up and over here. There we go. And it catches. There it is. And then around. And so I'm going to darken up underneath it to bring it out because it is darker anyway. So bring out that fold. Okay, and then come back underneath it. See how we're employing both additive and subtractive means to an end on even a more just additive drawing. Go. And underneath. Not too dark there, but a little bit dark into here. Okay, and then there's another little section that I'll get in here. Bring out just a little bit further. So it's a little bit thicker than I want it to be, so I'll make it thicker and then I'll come underneath it and thin it out. It's not quite as long as I totally want it to be, but I can't really change it now. I took that away. So, there we go, bring that out a little bit further. There we go, bring that back until completion. Okay, so let's come around here. Softening, and this is a little bit of a cascading cash out, that's why it's a little bit dark on this angle. So I want to make sure we get that. Just gently glaze it and glaze it until it feels like it reads it a little bit better. Then I want to take just a little bit off of the value here. It's a little softer and lighter, isn't it? Just a little bit. And that gets me close to that line in there. There we go. Woo, it's time consuming, isn't it? Kudos for people who watch this all the way through. I suspect that not a lot of people will. But if you do the entire drawing, let me see it. Love to email it to me. You can always email your work. I can't go into long analysis, I just can't. I don't have the time, but I can certainly give you a quick bullet point feedback. Really quick, I'm going to soften this up a little by just dabbing in it. Dabbing, dabbing. That's working pretty well. I'm fairly happy with that area, even though it's not quite accurate from my standards, but that's okay. If I can live with it, I'm going to live with it. And if I can, I'll change it. So as we're coming through here now, we're coming over this little area, and that's got a little light on the little lip of that turn, doesn't it? So we can dig that out. Right in through here. That's kind of the stitched border to reinforce that edge for a bedspread sheet. And it comes out, it starts thin and it comes out thicker to about right there, doesn't it? And over, so this is one I want to get more of here. And it kind of has these little shapes. These little light little pleats here and down through and over. And then it gets a little thicker and heavier, and then it actually disappears, and the shadow behind it picks up a little bit of a cast shadow right in through there. And around. Okay, this is a little bit wider to here. Take a little bit of background tone just to show myself that. Okay. And it kind of ends here a little bit. A little darker where they come together there. It's a little strong little lip, doesn't it? Right into there. You see that? And over, and then it starts to do the curling. You'll get a decent estimation on. And up and over. Okay, and I'll leave that for now. We'll get that very last little tip. I'm going to have to reach pretty far over in my drawing. It means you might get to see a lot of my bald head. Oof. Sorry. It's going to get scary, I think. Okay. Pick apart a little bit more detail there just to get some extra folding turns. Get that moving a little bit in that direction this way. A little bit further. Coming over here and down through, around. There we go. There we go. Nip it around. So in there, a bit of a lip, around, and we're going to darken this in just a little, just a little in through here. We don't want to leave it as light as it is because it's kind of burned out. The contrast on the image was a little, probably that light source a little too close to where I had it. I'm not a photographer. But so I'm gonna put a little bit more tone in through here so it just doesn't feel like it's washed out completely. Of course, I've got some of my gesture lines in there too, which is fine for me because it's, you know, it's still a sketch, still a drawing. I like all that process in there. Okay. Get that later, just a little bit. Come around. back behind it to refine that a little bit. And I'm going to pull this one here a little bit. Cut this a little line because this is going to come in front a little bit from what I can tell from the image. So I'm going to pull that front of this. Is going to go a little bit darker in through here behind it. And later on this will, right, this part in here is background tone. I'll start to put that in there. A little bit further. Because we're going to need that in a minute to really help us see how we did with our values around it. So I'm going to put this a little bit darker than what you see, just to make that go under, because it's really moving. We leave it, but it actually comes all the way underneath here and then goes underneath that little plate here. I can show that by a little bit more value here, I think, around. It'll help that go underneath, like so. Yeah. Yep. There we go. Okay, and then around here. And then this edge needs to be a little crisper, not a whole lot. Be careful, we don't want it to be just a strong line, but it could be just a little crisper. Like so. That looks pretty crisp enough. And we'll come down to the bottom of a little value here. We're getting close now. Conquer the Great Eastern Knot. We did it by being naughty. K-N-O-T-T-Y. You're probably thinking of something else. How dare you? Okay. Bad joke. Bad joke. So just a little further. I did not go to comic school. Clear. Clear, I would have failed. Okay. It's clear I'm not a member of the hair club for men, because I would have failed that too. Okay. Going through life balding and not being funny, that's a rough stuff. It's not been easy on me. It's not been easy. Anyway. Turning this over just a little bit more. It's not really on the image, but I'm going to treat it like a ball. So it's just turning and maybe a little fold, extraneous fold edge, and then close to the edge, but not quite. Here's the actual edge right there. So I'll take out that line in a little bit when we put the background tone there, but that'll help that image. That'll turn that cloth. Through here and over. Okay. Right through here, a little more, a little darkening through there. We're pretty much set in there, aren't we? Hallelujah. So let's go now to the tip. Finish the tip out here a little bit. I'm going to bring this drawing into me a little bit, so it's gonna kind of mess with your screen a little bit, but not bad. Right in through there, I think. Can move that over. There we go. And we're going to work now the final thrust, if you will, of the knot, and then we'll work the background, and then we have Hokusai's wave, and then the tiny western mountain, and then this little plain section here, the Midwest, now the South, about that. Okay. So up here in these folds, so it gets pretty bleached out in through here. So the darks anchor us here. Okay, so coming through and around and over. Okay, and there's a little hub here. Here we go through and around and extra space in through here. It's kind of a little hump there. Just a little space behind it. There we go. And we'll come through and get this little darker area. And curl up and around and through here, and just following those darks. I can relate to them the best I can. Here and then over and running through here and through here and up. And we're going to start to come on back down. And this can come on over a little bit. Just this shape. Here we go, and then around. It's kind of a back end of a cylinder, isn't it? And here it's got a little knot there. Just to get it to work pretty well. Doesn't have to be 100% accurate. Not that important. And this kind of cascades down. Alright, we'll get the background on that. A little bit around it, I mean. Like so. Alright, so let's come back over here and start to pick this apart a little bit. Get this edge. Pretty much one value. I might be a little darker than I want, but I can adjust those down. And very easily with a little kneaded eraser. Coming over. This is kind of the outer edge. And then down. And I see this little curl right here and up on this side. And get a little bit more of that. Because all this is more in light. We want to be a little bit more accurate. Can. Here we go. Through here and then up and around through here a little bit. Okay. So I'm going to take out some of this to get a little bit more accurate. Okay. I want to get that little inside curl a little bit. I'm a little bit probably not quite completely, obviously not completely accurate, but I want to get some nice little curl here. And then I'm going to correct and draw around it. There's a curl, and it comes around to a hump, a light hump, right? And then it comes back to a dark, deep curl on that side. So I'm getting relatively close to that, and then it comes way over, and then it catches a cast shadow right in through there and up. So let's see if I can push this a little bit, make this a little bit closer to accurate. Just need more light here. On this side, and a little bit up and over. Yeah, let that be a lesson. Don't fret about some of this. This minor detail is not important. So if it's not quite fitting into every total proportional scale, it's okay. You can't be as forgiving with the figure. The anatomy, that's why we study anatomy. We don't study cloth anatomy, right? The physics of cloth, but we do study figurative anatomy because you have to be careful if you miss something important like an eye or an eyeball. That's why drawing the figure can be so much more unforgiving. Clean this out a little bit. Here it's not as important. Lighten this up just a touch on the edge here of light. And we'll get around that in a little bit. So just keep that in mind. This is in the ballpark, but it's not completely accurate. Again, don't care. It's not important. Let yourself be a little bit easier on yourself. There you go. It's a good relationship there. I can live with all those little folds and elements as long as the edges are working. I can live with all that coming down. through here, and then around. There we go. And up, and I see a little opening here on this little fun. Let's take this on. It's barely visible, but it's a little open area, a little bit more shadow. I'll just run that in. I'll run this kind of fold up. There's a little linear fold I'll hit here too as well. Kind of behind all this cool stuff. There we go. There. And so we're pretty good there. I'm going to take some of the bite off some of this white, just a little. Not to be too contrasty. Because really the focal point is out here, isn't it? And there we go. I think we've got most of the elements of the Great Eastern Knot. I'm going to make this a little tighter edge there. I'm going to put a little value in this slight creasing here. Just to turn that a little. That's it. And the rest we'll take care of the background tone. Okay, so there's your Great Eastern Knot. Okay, so we want to move on now from the knot, the Great Eastern Knot, and I want to start working this background tone. Now I'm going to leave it silhouetted. I'm not going to cover up all this, but I want to work this dark, especially in the background against this edge. Okay, I think that's going to help quite a bit. So let me pop my image up. I lost my image here. Give me a momentito and I'll get it up here, full screen for me. There we go. That's it. And yeah, that would help. It's going to help quite a bit. And so we'll get a lot of this resolved somewhat over here a little bit, and then we're going to drop down and work on the Hokusai wave in through here, and then this plain section, and then the Great Western Hump or hill there, mountain. Okay, all right. So again, I'm going to use my triangle as kind of leverage to help me with keeping the background tone off of my white space. We want to bring that tone, that tone all the way to this edge. We want that crisp, solid edge. That's important. And we want to, as we work our backgrounds, begin to understand that they're valuable design elements. They can have movement and beauty to them that complement the overall force and beauty, if you will, of your focal point, which is your drawing. Whatever you're doing, whether it's the figure or whether it's, in this case, drapery. You could be drawing an ashtray. You could be drawing a bong, right? You could be drawing anything. The point is that you want to make it integrated to both the background and foreground. Okay? And you want this hard edge. In order to do that, you need a hard edge. Now, I've gone through this whole video without breaking my pencil. Those of you that are paying attention to that. So that's pretty great. I heard there's a betting line out there now on each video I release. Now I'm teasing about that. But it's been a while, so that's pretty amazing. I wonder if I can keep that up. I feel nervous now. So I'm just, when I use the hard edge there, I just go over it with my straight edge of my pencil just to keep it sharp. But then I abut it to my image here just to keep my toning off of the cloth so I can get a darker image. You want them nice and dark, and then they could go just the opposite way here. I'll stand outside the camera a little bit, and I can just fill this in a little. I don't want to go too strong with the opposite direction, because that gets into cross hatching and that can really ruin your movement. So you have to be careful. I'm just strengthening up the edge. It's almost like a filler tone in there. Then I'll go back to hatching in the same direction that I did earlier. Just want to bring it to the edge a little further. Okay. And I keep moving my pencil and turning it like that so that I can keep all my sides even. It's kind of like sharpening my pencil again. I've talked about that a little earlier. Okay, there we go. Okay, like so. Then I want to come back over. Okay. Start to work it again. I'll start up here a little bit. I know my head's in the way a little. I think you can see that. It's hard to keep out of the camera. To set up. I'm just working it through the image here. Just adding another layer of dark, keeping it against that nice edge there. Taking my time with the wax pencil. Takes a little longer. You gotta be a little bit more patient than with charcoal. There we go, coming through. Taking that edge there. Just hitting that edge a little bit further. I don't want it to be too linear, a separation. I don't want too strong a line there. I want it to be more valued tone. We work through there. Giving a little flare out here of artistic movement. And I keep my triangle, I kind of point to where the edge of the cloth is, and then I know where I can put a budding of my triangle. So there. Just keep moving along down here. When you take your triangle up, if you're using one, be careful to not slide it across on the paper, because you could smear, especially if you're using charcoal, or if you're using even Conte, or you're using graphite that has a way of smudging, smearing out a little bit. Go. Through here. And later on there's going to be a little cast shadowing up here, and I'm going to let this fade off to the knot. I'm not even going to cover the knot with the background all the way. But I am going to move this background just a little bit higher, just to give it a little artistic silhouetting. And if I don't like it, I can always change it as well. Okay, right, so moving that background along. I'm going to bring it some down through here. So a little darker into here. I'll play it off. Now there's a cast shadow here and up in through here. I'm going to actually include a little bit of that. Not all the way out here. I might later if I don't like the silhouetting. But I'm going to go a little darker here up against that edge. Right into here. And it's a little harder edge, but it ends softly here. So let that fade against that. It's still not absolute dark. Through here, I learned that a long time ago in Montana. There was an artist that, I think his name was Fred Falo. I believe he's a cowboy artist of America at the time. And I went on a trip. I went a trip to Montana, not one, but was invited as a teenager, I think I was 17 or 18, to go to Montana to study outdoor painting with these artists. And I went with my high school art teacher and a good colleague of hers and a good friend of mine who eventually became one of their group, Bruce Green, I believe. And anyway, we went to Montana. We studied with these accomplished artists in their genre out in nature in Yellowstone and Wyoming. It was beautiful. It was wonderful. And tough, because I was around a bunch of professionals and adults. So I was like, whew, boy, I've got a lot to learn. It's kind of intimidating, but I handled it pretty well. I think what struck me when Fred Falo, one of the groups, said that you have to be careful with your indoor shadows, because you have to imagine somebody could be in them and walk through them. Like in here, so you don't want them completely absolute dark. Somebody could emerge in there. So what would happen if a white ping pong ball, for instance, showed up in there? So you don't want them too dark. So that's still not absolute dark, believe it or not, but it gives us a casting from the light out here, right, onto the form here, and then we get the shadow on the wall. When you get a little bit, just slightly under here because of the under part of the cloth, and then that could go pretty damn dark. But anyway, it always stuck with me. It's been, gosh, I'm 50, so it's been 32 years ago. Gosh, really? Wow. It's crazy. I feel like it was yesterday. I can remember things yesterday. Okay, about this, I'm going to go a little. There. Out here a little bit. Take this out and cut it in it with a slight flare. And I'm going to come back. I'm not going to do too much more out here because we still got a lot of this still left to draw, but I am going to put one little extra layer down here just for now, so I can build up some contrast between here and here. I think that'll help too. Okay. Through. Just going to soften that up a little bit. So see how it's starting to integrate kind of nicely. I like what's going on here. I'm almost there. I don't want it necessarily go as dark as the image, but I am going to add one more little layer of material here of dark area. Go. keep on running it through, build it up to that edge, build it up to the edge, bring it to the edge, clear the edge, meaning that it stays crisp. There we go. That's it. Okay. All right. There we go. Okay. All right, so I think we're ready now to jump down to this area. Hokusai's wave, which was what we're calling this whole area, and maybe this, I call this the planes. This is kind of like the child's underwear, the child's diaper. See where the legs could go through here? It's almost like eyes. We're going to call it the diaper. All right, let's go on to these two now. All right, here we are back now. We're going to work on Hokusai's wave here, okay? That's what I'm calling that, and then the baby diaper. We're going to call that the baby diaper. So we have Hokusai's wave, the baby diaper, and then the Great Western Hump, or mountain, okay? This was the Great Apex Hump, the squid, right in the middle here, then this Eastern Plains. This was the Great Eastern Knot. This is the baby diaper, because of the, looks like a diaper here. And Hokusai's wave and the Great Western Knot. All right, let's jump into that. So let's go on. We'll start first with the Great Baby Diaper. So we'll work that through a little bit now here. All right, so starting through, so let's use those darks to anchor our drawing, or to find where we can really jump into this and get some conclusion here as well. So I'm going to come over here and grab this little curvature that's happening by Hokusai's wave over here and over to there, and then through and fuller over. A little bit of a hump. Just paying mindful to the attention of the curvature here as well. This could be a little. And you'll find little areas that you'll want to adjust in other areas as you get new areas completed. So a drawing like this can be a little compartmentalized, but the initial drawing was not, where we laid in everything. Then later on it can get a little compartmentalized if it needs to be. So we're working in through here where this lovely little creamy little line is here, where that coarse shadow is. So we're going to start there, where I want that coarse shadow. And work my way over through, and then really quickly now I'm going to go just one more layer of darkness. And through, and then come around. This kind of also delineates Hokusai's wave over here too as well. This curve right here as it comes down as they meet in a butt, and then the wave on the left comes over and takes over here. And then we have this part of the wave coming over this way. Okay. And then downward. Right through here to define that. Okay, and then that goes away, and then we have that little darker region right in through here. Here we want to go through. Okay, and then down it's going to separate some a little bit. Now remember, I'm also a little short here because I wanted to put the drawing on, get it all on the paper and silhouette it a little bit. So I made a design decision based on my initial composition to alter that. So just keep that in mind. I think I said that earlier in the video, but we want to just reiterate that some more. This could come over just a little bit. Right in through there and over. There we go. And you have the right to do that as an artist, to change, especially when you master drawing and painting, you can change things quite a bit. You're always in constant change. So under here, I'll start to take on this little dark sliver. That gives me a little anchor here. right in through this area, and then kind of downward I'll take it further. I'll go ahead and grab this here, and then right where that little shape is here, it's kind of a curvature. It looks like this. I'll show you here, and then up and over, which is still underneath the diaper part of it that we're calling the diaper, and then we'll fill this in just as a value, because it's going to have 3 different values. The darker one here, the medium one on the lower left over here, which is pretty much done. It's just a little bit lighter than the one over here, not by much, just barely. So we have that as an anchor. The reason why I wanted to go ahead and do that is so I can find this edge of the crease of the bottom of the fold of the diaper fold here, and then over, way over, to get this fold. So this is going to alter this a little, as you see here. Okay. Take some of that out. We can change that. And so now we have this over, and it can come way over and crease over and kind of come in. Okay, we're drawing the edge and the coarse shadow. Later on it's going to have reflected light on it too. And then underneath where it loops, about right in through there, we'll have it, okay, like this, like so, and over. And we're just going to fill this in a little. That's it. Okay. Downward in through here. Okay. And then coming through. And then we've got this curve of the diaper where the bottom is. It sits, and then we're going to bring it over here. And around and through, and then kind of stop. I'm going to stop right in through here, and I'll pick up on this a little bit later. So it's feeling decent, pretty good right in through here. A little dark area of turning will be here before we get to the outer edge of the diaper leg, where the baby's leg would go through a diaper. And we're just calling it the Drapery-Cloth, just a region. Have a little fun with naming it, silly names. Be a little silly in our lives. A little levity, especially at this time in this period of our lives throughout the world. People tend to think that we all go through this alone, and one country goes through it alone, but clearly we're not. Americans now can't even travel anywhere anymore, Europe, because we were so bad at containing the virus, which is really disappointing on many different levels. So here we are. All right, so coming over. I kind of like to throw that in the video. It kind of dates it for posterity and look back on these a little bit. So we're just generalizing through here. And then coming over to get a little stronger with our attention to our shape here. As this dark is going to curve around. Okay, and then back. Wants to go back where that crease is, because it's an opening there, isn't it, where it allows the opening to come through, and it curls completely underneath itself. Back in through there, and it changes value, a little bit of color, it gets a little greener, a little yellower, doesn't it? And through here, and then over, and this can end a little bit lower too. Kind of runs into the hump a little bit. All that in through here that we can generalize for now, and then later on we can go back and take it to the next final level of detailing and around. Then on top here, it's actually a little darker. So we can start to get that little core shadow. All of that is starting to work for us. So it's been a long journey so far. It's a very long demo, very long drawing, about 8 or 9 hours total, which seems like a long time, but for a drawing you can spend months, so it's really not. But I guess to be on camera and then, you know, if you're using YouTube comparison, I get disappointed in those artists who have some following and that do these very quick little demos and then they sped up or something. I don't think that's really good practice, but there's a lot of amateurism out there that I see, unfortunately, and there's a lot of folks with a lot more membership than I have. That's really never the reason why we did this. We did this for our students, and it was a good thing we did because COVID came. That was prescient. But then, you know, as you settle into it, you see some of what's really poor stuff out there that gets followed quite a bit, and I'm like, oh goodness gracious. But you know, people have to learn, and that's why you want a good, solid. If you're very serious about art, you want a good, solid education. Now, if you're young at heart and you don't want to go back to school, I get that. Then I think this is a great place to be. Here and there are others. If you want more knowledge about what others I would suggest, and some of them are for pay, they're not cheap. But I can suggest some others. Just email me and I'll let you know. I don't want to name it on a video. But there's 2 really good others that I would suggest. We're always going to keep ours free. As long as I'm in control of it and I have control of the entire drawing database, and I will keep it free. It's my commitment to public service. So I've been granted some very nice things monetarily in my life, and I'm going to pay that back when and if I can. Okay, coming through. Little coarse shadow softly cascading over that lip of coarse shadow there, right there where I'm drawing. And then we come back and you can see it in this little creamier, lighter area. There's a little softness here that starts to gradually turn. And we'll come over to this side. Here. And then start to lay on this middle tone value. Here and then over. So now we've got closing in on the right side of this little curved white area of the diaper, part of our cloth section we're calling it. Right, and it breaks off a little bit, doesn't it? And it makes its own little shape. It's soft, transitional edges on all sides of it. Okay, make sure you know that. Running around and through here. Filling in working the darker value, working it up. Some through here, and it comes up and it fades a little bit, getting its thickness and its value working for me. There we go, around and over and coming around through here. And we want to flatten that out a little bit and come on over, come through, come around, come down a little bit further into that dark area. Didn't really see where it creases into that lip. You can see that get a little darker, right? Running through here. Creasing of that fold as I'm moving around and then getting it tighter edged. Not too dark because there's a little coarse shadow right there. And then there's a little reflected light that I want to recapture right there. A little bit lighter with it, kind of scratch it out a little bit. Okay. And it fades out a little further. Just want to turn that coarse shadow, soften it up a little bit. And then right in through here is a turn. There we go. And over. Bring that little darker underpass through there. What's anchored by that dark we put down earlier, isn't it? Glad we put that down so we can see it working together in harmony. And we'll come over to here and we come around. Keep that edge soft and let it come all the way over this little underhang loop of reflected light. You know, the values are pretty similar, so you have to be careful of that, but you have to have a discerning eye so you can see these differences. And that's what being an artist is about, is that discerning, capturing eye and level. Down through. And this secondary wave is probably a little too much. You can take it down a little. But I'm not going to take, actually I'm not, I'm just going to leave it. It doesn't bother me. It's not worth the change. It's a little bit off. It's not worth it. And only you can decide that for yourself. It's really close, like I talked about with the knot too as well. So just keep that in mind as we're moving through our drawing. Okay. It's looking pretty good, a little darker inside here. There's a little touch of a fold in there. I'll put that in just to separate some of the dark in there. And that's working pretty well. And we get a little separation here and over. I think we've got just about now what we need through here. Tighten this edge, coarse shadow tighten a little bit, come across a little bit of a stronger shadow, but still soft, coming down and around here. And there we go. Okay, now I take my mono eraser, come over here, and give it a kick or two. Here. There we go. So that gives us this little ledge, little hump, and there's a little ridge here. It makes it really a lighter value right there. So there's a little bit of a space. We have a little, then we have a little dark coming through, and it turns the opposite way. Then it wants to come this way, doesn't it? It's a nice little rhythmic movement that's got on there. So coarse shadow, running through there, and this is going to fade off pretty quickly. Like so. In through there, and it's got a little bit of value. Right in through here, it's hard to see, but it's there. Never want to leave it absolutely white for too long. It's got a little value. That's why we get that little lighter area and through here. Soften it up a little bit. So the diaper's starting to come along well. Okay, coming over here, and we're going to take this area downward, cross and over, coming through curve. And we'll take a little kneaded eraser here. Soften and take a little bit of that light up. There we go. Just a little bit more. There we go. And coming around. Okay, now coming around off that, so now we have a little more room here. And we're going to start working a little bit more broadly because we have a little bit less detail. And so we're going to come in through here, and as the work this fold is a larger area through here we're working. Through here and around over darks. So it's more subtle contrast of the changes that are going on. So we have to be careful or mindful more of that. And so as we do that, I'm going to come over here now and define under here. Define under this kind of leg opening of what we're calling the diaper. That's kind of why. Finding that value underneath, a little bit stronger dark. But what we really need is a coarse shadow about right here to help us get this resolved along close to the edge, but not right at the edge because we have reflected light. That's what makes these so difficult. The coarse shadow is the darker part, but it's not on the inside, it's on the outside. It runs right over here, okay? Then along the edge, right here, and then transitions and fades out. Okay, now I'm going to take my Japanese mono eraser. I always want to say Japanese to give them the credit. Okay, domo arigato, right? Okay, and then coming through. And then over, you can see that little reflected light area through there. Important to get in the drawing as it comes around and it disappears a little bit to there. This can be a little softer. There we go. Well, it's working pretty well. And you can come along with your kneaded eraser, which I'm going to do. I'm going to just soften that up, just dabbing that down a little bit. Okay, and then coming back underneath with just a little bit of dark and taking up that under crevasse just a little bit. It's a little bit darker in there. So really picking apart these subtle values, and you need time to practice to see those subtle values, do value scales and exercises that help with that. Very important. Okay, through here and around and over. Flatten this down as it kind of flattens. That's why it's got a little darker there. It's flattening out a little bit and over. It's coming through here. A little bit more dark there. It lines up just barely right in through there. Okay, so it's working pretty well. I'm going to go to this lip over here, get a little darker, through there, and then around, and then we get underneath it a little, like so, through here and up and over. Cast shadow will be under there, in that region. And I'm going to come over here and we're going to go a little darker. Like this. So this is turning underneath now as it turns. This is flattening, now it's turning. That's why it gets a little lighter into here because the light's hitting it, and then it's turning over. This is the coarse shadow. It's not a lot because it's getting a lot of reflected light. Okay, and we're coming through here. Poking through with a little strong cut in dark, a little bit of a line to suggest that. And through and under there. See that? Okay, and over. So I'm going to take my kneaded eraser now. It's starting to look like a diaper. Or underwear, I suppose. We'll just call it a diaper. Leave it at that. Here we go. And now we're coming around. Just taking a little bit of liberty to get some light dark movement there, soften some areas, sharpen some areas if I need to. Take my kneaded eraser when I need it. Then I'm going to pick up my pencil here into my polychromos black. Okay, here we go. Soften that down. Just try to be as exact as I can when I want to be more exact or when I'm just interpreting a little bit. Right now I'm getting a little bit being more exact, I suppose. All right, coming through here and over, so move my chair a little bit. Gonna work this now, this slightly darker shadow, flatter areas into here. Everything is soft edge with a little bit of some value shifts, totally. This is all a little bit darker. See how this whole plane area is darker than here and here. These are the lightest areas, but the lightest areas being really about right into here. Can be hit lighter. Right into there. And then inside this little teardrop patch, what we call the baby diaper leg area a little bit. So we'll go back and take care of that in a moment. So let's get these folds going in here. There's a little lipping as it turns over right in through here. It's important to get on. So we got these darks that are pretty rich, and this is quite a bit lighter right into here. And we're going to take this on. Don't worry about those red gesture lines. I don't mind those. I kind of like those. It gives it a sort of a process drawing look. Here and around. And so I'm just relaying the thickness of the light, a little bit lighter area to the thickness of the little bit of a darker area. See how it angles down a little bit? Just gently rolling down, very, very softly. They're just little changes in flatnesses. This is like a cascading down. A little bit. There's this little implied line. I'm not going to get that, but it is there. I don't want to get that. It's too much detail. So through here and coming over, it gets a little bit thicker, not too much darker, but a little bit. Now I'm going to pick back up where we're here so I can meet them together Then coming back over, now we've got a little section where it's kind of like shark's teeth, kind of like we did, like remember over here, right? There's a little bit there, kind of maybe there. That's here a little bit too as well. So these are little stronger folds right in through here. Just be very gentle with it. It's just a kind of a triangle. In and sort of curved over there where the dark makes kind of a triangle look. Then they fade off to one little nodule kind of like right in through there. Then that's plenty. And up and over. And then that's where it curves and it gets this little stronger pleated curve. Doesn't it? Right there, which is a harder edge. Not by much, but it is a harder edge right there. Okay, then we get the back of that little triangle tooth, shark's tooth kind of area with a softer transition of value up against the harder edges there. That's what makes that work for us. Makes that shape work on the image. And then this goes downward. So we'll follow that dark pattern to about where it ends, right in through here, and then over, downwards. Right in through there, then over. Through here. And this space between here and here is a little far. Does it matter? It doesn't matter, so don't change it. Unless you like what you don't like what you have. I'm not going to change it. I'm just going to make this a little thicker. But it's not an important part of the drawing. Most of the time in still life drawing, you can fudge a little bit with scale and proportion. We won't know it, but in the figure, you cannot. There's a lot of times where a difference in this little space where the eye is or something along that thinking will just change the drawing and make it really weak. Through here, and then over. Okay, and all this is a little bit darker, just a glazing over, very, very soft. That's what's going to make these work for us. Those little subtle, supple transitions are what we're looking for. See there. And then around, this curves through. It's a little tedious, but it's okay. So that's what we got to go through. Sometimes you got a long way to go, and it's like a long drive or a long travel on a train. You just sit back and take it in and work on it, and whatever it takes, you get it done. I suppose that's how I think about it, at least. And then around a little bit, and then coming through, and there's another little pleated fold in there, right there. That's very minor. That tells us this goes up, under a little bit, over, pitching right, pitch and roll, high and low. Those should be your inner words that you tell yourself. In my opinion, my teaching practice. Teaching practice is a creative act. It can be critiqued, it can be challenged. For sure. to the lip edge here of the baby diaper leg entrance into here. We're almost there to that, and coming through, and I want to define those little changes over here a little further, a little more. It's a little darker running through here than it is over here in that light. Just be mindful. Now as I come through these little subtleties, this kind of little rectangular booty look, little shape, trapezoidal shape, just gathering it in there. It just hovers in there as a little strong little folding pleats there, and then a little lighter, and then it picks up a little darker again, just going up and down. And if you were a little bitty bug or ant or insect, you'd have a little up and down roller coaster ride going. You're driving in a car or something. That's what this is suggesting quite a bit. And then over here, a few subtle little changes. There's an artist at Arizona State University where I did my MFA at. He's a professor there. I forget his name. He might be retired now, but he did trompe l'oeil wood sculptures that were cloth and other things, that something kind of like this, carved out of wood and then painted and then mounted on the wall in a gallery. And it, you know, from a distance it looks like it's cloth. You're like, okay, there's some cloth on the wall, let's go take a look at that. Then you realize, oh my God, that's actually wood. And so this can be done in 3D and 2D. I think 3D is even more difficult. The time consumption of sanding has just got to be crazy, 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 crazy. So we're coming through here, and then we're coming on around underneath, and then over, just a little bit darker. So it's really subtle, a lot of subtle transition, but they're very broad, so it's kind of a little relaxing fun from some of the meticulousness that you get in some of these other areas. But it's the relationship, the contrast. Here's another layer of contrast for you. The difference between clarity, clear delineation, and then softness. In vague undulation is another fun contrast. You know, art and design is a lot about those contrasts of lots of things besides just color or value. But folds, pleats, soft edges versus hard edges, you know, and all points in between. Through here and around. Through here, then back, kind of back in this area now. Coming back through, almost kind of done. We're going to get this in a moment. Coming through, a little turn. Just takes a while, doesn't it? Takes a while. We're not even doing photorealism. We're drawing. We're drawing, sketch, analysis of form. Not even photorealism, which is just, too much for me, too much detail, too much focus. But for some of you, this is the road to get there. You just take more time and take this, it's like being in a microscope, and you just keep turning the dial as it gets more focus and more focus, and you get to a point where it just gets crazy detailed. It's like high-def cameras now. We're at, I think, what I'm using is 4K, and that's plenty. It's going to be 5K, 8K. I don't know how far we're going to go until we're just going to be able to see through everybody. It's like, hi, how you doing? Hey, I can see your intestine. You might have a little bit of a problem. Or, hey, I can see your lungs. You might have a cold. Or, was that a hamburger you ate for lunch? You know, that kind of weird. It's like, I don't know how much more definition. I notice on YouTube when I watch videos or look and see what I've done and see how it's coming through, is a lot of times 1080 is about enough. 1440 is good. 2160 is, sometimes depending on your computer, it has a hard time running it. So that's another problem that we have as well. So, all right, now we're just about ready to get into the baby's leg entrance of our diaper here. And cut. Okay. Alright, so, and we're recording. Alright, so let's get on this opening in through here. We're almost done. Mercifully, this is a little bit easier area. It's kind of nice. I'm going to come down one more little area, this little folding I want to get in through there. So what I really like this, I squinted all this in my eye and with my eyes, and I try to simplify all that down and see the patterns emerge when I look at my drawing and also the image that we're working from too as well. Okay. Alright, so coming down the diaper. Oh, there's one little area here, sorry. Got to get to. So much to think about. I'm just taking waves. My caucasized wave. A little bit darker running through there. There we go. This curls up a little bit. Okay. I think we've got what we need to get out of there. Now coming over to the last opening here, this little folding area of white, darker line folding in through here and up and over. It's a little creasing fold that really divots from both sides, it turns in. So that's kind of hard to show. It's more shadowy on this side because of the light source on the right, and this goes all the way up and fades and disappears inside there. Underneath. Make that a really crisp edge. As that comes over, this will have a little volume on the outside edge, right through here. Just a little bit. As it fades, of course, this will go darker with the background. We'll get that in a little bit. Hang on. Okay. So coming through. And then we'll move over and up, and then where that gets really creased in that little fine point here, and up and through. And then underneath, now this is all curling, so this has got a little bit darker area through here. And then down and over. Like so, now I'm going to take my kneaded eraser, this medium one here, okay, and then clean that out a little. Clean up that edge, make it a little bit crisper, and then running through here, take that down, right there. Okay, and then we're going to soften. Here, this is probably over here a little dark too. Actually, I'm going to soften it now, so I'll take my kneaded eraser. Okay. Right down in through here. And then lighten and soften just a little as I see that emerge. There we go. There we go. And through there. A little thicker running through here. through, and we'll get that little line creasing in through. Just the initial part of it. All right, now let's go now into the curvature, and that's, you know, that's still, this is even too dark, I think. Let's lighten it up by keeping it still crisp. I can just dab at it with my kneaded eraser. Lighten it up a little bit. Lighten that up. There we go. Okay. And then come on through the bottom part inside a little bit. Get those form shadows and cast shadows that are actually a little more cast shadows that are emerging. And we have this one over. Soft, kind of circular, semi-circular in through here and over. Here we go. And we'll bring this hovering dark shadow out further. Like it wants to come out, which it does. And around. Like that area, and then over. That's it. And then we've got, you know, a lot of inside subtlety. Okay, it's almost about this light here. So most of it's going to be a little lighter, but it's not quite as light as we think it is. We can tone it down just barely with a little value, not too much. A bit more folding right into there. I think we've got it how we want that, I think. I want it to take a little bit, just a touch, make that fold back through, like so. And then take a little bit of my kneaded eraser here. Take that down a little bit. Value or up in brightness, and then work this little shape here and over. There we go. All right, so feeling pretty good about that. Go a little bit longer with that crease. Then it meets up over here with this cast shadow of that fold. Okay, thins out, then gets a little bit thicker and darker right in through there, doesn't it? And it thins out again. And then next to it is the beginnings of that very subtle fold, separation of those in between there. And coming over. So we're getting to here underneath. And over. And coming through here now. And this is a stronger edge because of that dark. And then it emerges to that little white triangular space. And through here. So I've got some thinking to do how I'm going to end this since I'm a little bit short. I'm just going to go mimic these spaces until I get to the edge that I've already created with myself, and that should work out fine. Because remember, I've shortened this bottom some so I can keep the image in the paper. I left myself a little too long and it would come off the page, but it was no worries, so I could just cut that off. If it was a figure, I might not be able to do that. I might have had to change. But because it's this cloth object, I can do that. So that's one advantage of, or disadvantage of working with the figure. Sometimes that will interfere with things that you might want or need. All right, coming under here, kind of a fold in through here, a little darker, right in through here, and then it comes over, doesn't it? Right, so let's subtly pick that apart now. Take that dark, working the dark area, where it comes out together and it's a little thicker. See there, so mine's going to be a little shorter. Like so. And there. And down through and over. Make that dark. Now we want to get these undershapes. So this space in through here is important. So this kind of gets us into the wave, Hakusai's wave, kind of in between here. But right in through here, this nice little curve as we're working through here. Excuse me, I had to reach across to refresh the mouse area. And then, so we're going to take on this shape under here and modify it a little bit. If it's too long, I'm just going to modify it. So whatever I have left, the space I have left in through here. There, and then we're going to come over. I'm going to find a bigger, darker area for now, roughly right in through here. So it comes over, and underneath it's basically cast very soft or cast shadow from the light that's hitting the underwear, the top here, and casting under. It's not very dark because there's a lot of reflected light coming through. It's a little bit harder edge right in through there. Then over, and then we get this nice little turn, don't we? Cool. This comes over. Cool. K-E-W-L. Cool. Cool. Right to there. And then over. And then through here. Okay. And then just around all the way to this edge. It's not quite the same, but I don't care about it. It's not that important. We've talked about what I've done, how I've altered for my needs more than accuracy, and how I can make it all come together. So just laying all this tone in here. Okay. The darkest area is running through here, which we've got, and then under here, maybe one more area of dark, just a touch right through that area, up and around, like so. Okay. So we're blocking in those, and then coming over. What I'm going to do is what am I going to do? I think what I'm going to do is tie it in right underneath here where this turns over. So we've got this turning over. I'm going to keep that, yeah. I'm just kind of exploring it and figuring it out as I narrate it. Right in through here, and then this is the fold, and then this will catch up to there. We'll have that underneath, and then underneath that we'll have this one, so I can follow it downward, and that's going to be the ending, kind of right to actually here, but then underneath where it gets a little bit darker. All right, so this will be where we probably depart quite a bit. You might have, if you composed all of it, where I've gone a little shorter, or not, it's okay if you're following really, really close. That makes it a little difficult for you, I get that, but it's a demo, so you can follow along, hopefully almost all of it, and by this point you can probably have a really good idea how it's going, obviously, and this is going to be a little darker. There's that turn, that curve that I have in through here, and this gets really us into the Hakusai wave. Through here and over. I'm just going to throw that little tone on here for now so I see it right there, the under part. Little double section here. There we go. Okay. Coming around as it turns. through. And then right in through here. This is another little strong area of folding change. That strong line is. It's a little darker. There we go. And up. Okay. Now we're going to come back over here, and this area I'll kind of complete the diaper section. We'll make that the end of that. So now we've got reflected line. We've got a little curvature fold in there. That's subtle. Coming up and it fades a little bit there. It's a little stronger there. And it fades over, and then it starts to fade out. It gets longer, the shadow, then it fades out, doesn't it, to there, roughly, like so. And there's a back fold curvature here. See that? We want to get. Okay, and then we're coming over this way with it, curving through here to get that more stronger indented area, and through here and up and over. Okay, and through. This is cast shadow. That's why it's a little darker, but it's still not completely dark, because this is deeper inside. It's got a little, this edge is interesting because it's kind of hard edge, and it kind of is, it's a little firmer, but it is a cast shadow coming from this as the object of it. And then we want to come down, and there's a little darker just slightly darker than the fabric, about right into here. Okay, like so. Not particularly difficult, just time consuming and consumptive and a little tedious, a little boring, I know. And then a little darker there. Okay, now how to end this here. So here's the hub of that. And so I'm going to come over where the end of that is, running through here, and then we're going to come up over. This gets a little bit stronger form. Right there. Push that through. It's got a little bit of dark around the body here. Darker on the inside, just barely a little value there. Even on this side, just barely. Okay. And then underneath it, dark here. Then we're going to run it up as a coarse shadow. And then over. Like that. Woo, and it curls over. You can make little woo noises like roller coasters if you're silly like I am. Woo, like that. Okay, this gets us up. And then I want to come in to get this area to underneath. It's a little bit tougher. So we're going to get, we've got some form shadow underneath there, and then reflected light. So we're going to come over, and then just where it ends, that's where that dark is. See that dark underneath there? That's where I'm going to go to, about running through there. That's going to meet up. That's a pretty good location there. And underneath this can go in a little bit. Through all that, and over. Past and underneath it gets complex. Ooh, complex. Okay. Through here. And then around here. Now, this is going to have to change. So I'm going to take this light off. I'm going to erase all this off a little bit so I can alter this. Because I remember I changed it. Okay, right in through there. Because we have that shadow underneath this little curvature down here. Okay, so let's put all that. Let's get all that kind of where I had it before, which was wax. I think I was trying to draw the underneath part. Now we can put it in gentle shadow for now. Around. So we'll block that in. And I'm going to catch that in the next phase, right there. I'm going to end this, because what I want to do before I take a break from this video for the day here is I want to get some more background tone in there. So I'm going to do that. This will probably conclude the third section. Looks like there's going to be maybe 4 sections. So let's do that. I'm going to do that now. And start to, just like we've done all over, right, done through, start to bring some of this background tone up to, and I'm just abutting the edge where I can so that the background doesn't run all into the drapery that we worked hard on, right? Fade this out a little bit, artistic flair there in terms of background. We're building up this background slowly. Then I'll come back here a little bit and catch the edge, go in the opposite way, like so, to fill in those darker areas. I don't want to make it too dominant because I don't want to create a different rhythm. I want to keep this kind of movement going as opposed to this. That's kind of my filler. So I can fill those gaps and then we can start to go darker. And then I can cut into it with a little line, okay, to help clean the image up. Then I want to come back and then start to fill back the value here. Go darker. And it's got all kinds of little variations and shifts in atmosphere, so keep that in mind. It's not just, you're looking at the wall, and I get the wall, but we're kind of interpreting the wall just to kind of a gradual tone. You have to look at a lot of master drawings to get this idea of just generic but beautiful staging, if you will, of atmospheric value, toning. Okay. So coming down through here, around adding dark, and then using my abutting edge of my triangle as a way to control the edge further so it doesn't run into that edge. And then I can come out here and I can run off the paper and onto that sketch paper I have underneath. Come off the edge. That's why it's good to have lots of paper underneath. I can fill this in, and I've got now at the bottom here. See how it's starting to work for me? And then I can, if I want, I can use this edge and kind of come back here. So I can use my edge and just turn it as I need to make it cleaner and clearer. Look how I can go darker now, right, and with a cleaner a cleaner edge to that. Okay, so we got the diaper section in, and we've got a little bit started the wave. We're going to work with the wave, next Hokusai's wave, and then the Great Western Hump through there. And I think we'll be mercifully close to finishing the video. Okay, alright, let's move on to Hokusai's wave after I take a well-deserved break. See you soon. Bye-bye.